Good morning, students. Good morning to all. On last day, we have studied about the Reserve Bank of India and the rural credit. So, and I gave the study portions also as the same. So, just today also we have just remained what we have studied on last day, and we will go to the next concept. We have studied the Reserve Bank of India and the functions of the Reserve Bank of India. So even though if the functions of Reserve Bank of India is abundantly, so the role of Reserve Bank in many areas also innumerable. So in this way, the role of Reserve Bank of India in this rural credit is just important one. So in a developing economy like India, the central bank of the country cannot confine itself to the monetary regulations only, and it is expected that it should take part in development function in all the sectors, especially in the agriculture and industries. Because we have studied already, the agriculture and the industry is the main sector to increasing the development of economy. Our one economy must be depending upon the more industrial development. But even though the nations must be give the same importance to the agriculture sector also, because the 5 or the 15% of the GDP is coming from the agricultural credit, and those who are involved more in agricultural sector mean the rural peoples. The rural side only, the agricultural sector still is going to improve. So the Reserve Bank of India must be taking into the account of the rural credit. The role of Reserve Bank of India agricultural credit. So how the Reserve Bank of India is going to important to credit the credit facilities to the agricultural mean, it is innumerable. So the Reserve Bank of India has been playing a very vital role in the provision of agricultural finance in the countries. So what are the provisions have to be undertaken by the nations? Instead of the nations, the Reserve Bank of India only have to take all the responsibility to providing the financial assistance. So the bank's responsibility in this field had been increased due to the predominance of agricultural in the Indian economy and the inadequacy of the formal agencies to cater to the huge requirements of this sector. Because most important sector in India may be the industrial sector, but the agricultural sector also it is the same, because most of the raw materials for the industrial sector is coming from the agricultural sector. So we can say the industrial sector always depending upon the agricultural sectors, and if there is no agricultural sectors, there is no need to improving the industrial sectors. To providing the more financial facilities and to providing the special peculiar important to the agricultural credit for the agricultural sector, the Reserve Bank of India already set up a separate agricultural credit department. So the agricultural credit department will be focusing mostly on the agricultural sectors. So some of the functions also is taken by the agricultural credit department. So what are the undertakings are regulated by the agricultural credit department mean? First, to maintain an expert staff to study all the questions on agricultural credit. First of all, we have to analyze the more doubts and the questions in these agricultural sectors, and we have to analyze what is the problem, what is the solutions, and what is the reasons for the problem arising in agricultural sectors. For that, some of the expert staff is arranged. Next, to provide expert advice to central and state governments, state cooperative banks, and other banking activities. Next, to finance the rural sector through eligible institutions. We have more eligible institutions. These more eligible institutions separately will be focusing on the agricultural sectors on the basis of the crops. Next, the Reserve Bank of India also arranged the Agricultural Refinance Development Corporations. Agricultural Refinance Development Corporations. So these corporations always provide the special important to improving the agricultural land to enumerate the new land, or it will be providing the refinance to improving the cultivations of some of the particular crops and the particular land in some areas. So farmers in India requires mainly medium term and long term loans, and they face a lot of difficulties in getting them. So normally the industrial sectors and entrepreneurs can have the more opportunity to deriving the financial assistance from the bank, but the farmers always will have some of the troubles to borrowing the money from any of the special bank. Okay, and another one of the thing is the farmers only will be in need of medium term loan and the long term loan, because the in agricultural only the diseased unemployment will be appear. So and not only that, they will be cultivate the land, or they will earn the income from the agricultural per seasonally. So if they want to give back the money to the bank, they need medium term loan and the long term loan. So the Reserve Bank of India made the agricultural refinance development corporations. So with the aim of bridging the gap in agricultural finance and to extend the credit for projects involving agricultural development on organizations called the agricultural refinance development corporations. So these agricultural refinance development corporations also has some of the objectives. So what are the objectives are there? I mean, the agricultural refinance development corporations provide necessary funds by way of refinance to eligible institutions such as the central land development banks, state cooperative banks, and scheduled banks. Normally, the agricultural can borrow the money from the central land development bank and the state cooperative bank. And some in area, some of the scheduled banks also existing. From there, the farmers can able to borrow the money. Let it subscribe to the debentures floated by the central land development banks. Some of the central development banks also issues the debentures. So by the way of having the debentures, the farmers can have the eligible to purchasing or selling the debentures. And regional rural banks. The regional rural banks also established by the central bank, that is the Reserve Bank of India. One of the important points of the 20 points economic program of Mr. Indira Gandhi during emergency was liquidation of rural indebtedness by stages and provide institutional credit. When Indira Gandhi was as a Prime Minister of India, she has more importance to the rural indebtedness, and they provide institutional credit to the farmers and the artisans in rural areas, because some of the artisans will create some of the handicraft commodity from the agricultural related goods only. So on the basis of new economic program in 1975, the Rural Regional Bank was set up. The share capital of regional rural banks is subscribed by the central government 50%, the state government consent 15%, and the sponsoring commercial bank have to be provided 35%. So the subscribed amount is contributed by the state government and the central government and the sponsoring commercial banks. If any of the banks will be sponsoring to the peoples. Next, concessions to RRB. The concession to the regional rural banks provided by the central bank is: from the beginning, the sponsor banks have continued to provide managerial and financial assistance to RRBs and also other concessions such as lower rate of interest and the later borrowings from sponsors banks. And some of the ways are there to conducting the regional rural banks provided by the state government, central government and the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India has been granting many concessions to regional rural banks. First, they are allowed to maintain cash reserve ratio at 3% and statutory liquidity ratio at 25%. Already we have studied the Reserve Bank of India only maintained and regulates the cash reserve ratio. So according to the Reserve Bank of India, so it has allowed the RRB to maintain the cash reserve ratio till 3% and statutory liquidity ratio at till 25%. And the Reserve Bank of India also provide refinance facilities through Nabard. Nabard means one of the bank, National Agricultural Bank and Bank of Agricultural and Rural Development. So this bank also made by the guidelines of Reserve Bank of India. Next, Nabard and its role in agricultural credit. So the Nabard means National Bank for Agricultural and Rural Development. This bank was set up only for the purpose of improving the agricultural and rural development. The RBI extended short-term seasonal credit as well as medium-term and long-term credit to agriculture through state-level cooperative banks and land development banks. The Nabard Bank will be provided the financial facilities to the state cooperative bank. After that, the central cooperative bank. The central cooperative bank in the sense the district level cooperative bank. After that, primary cooperative societies. So the farmers can able to borrow the money from the primary cooperative society. So the Nabard Bank always has the 4-tier cooperative credit society. Next, the functions of Nabard Bank. So the Nabard Bank also undertaking many functions to the agricultural and the development of rural areas. So the Nabard has inherited its apex role from RBI. So that is, it is performing all the functions performed by Reserve Bank of India with regards to agricultural credit. On behalf of the Reserve Bank of India, the Nabard Bank only will be focusing and undertaking all the things to improving the agricultural and rural areas. So the Nabard act as a refinance institutions for all kinds of production and investment credit to agriculture and the small scale industries, cottages and village industries and handicrafts and rural crafts and real artisans and all other allied economic activities with a view to promoting integrated rural development. By the way of creating the integrated rural development, so the Nabard Bank also acts as a refinance institutions for all kinds of productions and investment credit. So if the persons are doing some of the production process in these agricultural sectors, and by using the agricultural commodities, those who are ready to or doing some of the handicraft commodities, for them the bank, Nabard Bank will provide the finance assistance. Next, the Nabard Bank provides short-term and medium-term and long-term credits to state cooperative banks. So already we have studied so many of the artisans and the rural artisans and the farmers. If they are not knowing about the borrowing process from any of the banks, so the Nabard banks always provides the short-term and medium-term and long-term loan to the state cooperative banks. So from the state cooperative banks, we have the close relationship with the farmers. So the Reserve Bank or the regional rural banks are land development banks and other financial institutions approved by the Reserve Bank of India. So not only the Nabard Bank, so as like Nabard Bank, the land development bank and the regional rural bank also has been approved by the Reserve Bank of India to providing the finance assistance to the farmers. Next, Nabard gives a long-term loan to state government to enable them to subscribe the share capital of cooperative credit societies. So the Nabard Bank also gives the long-term loans to the state government. State government means the state cooperative societies to issuing their share capital up to 20 years. So when they are issuing the share capital from the cooperative societies, so every farmers will have some opportunity to have the share of cooperative societies, and the value of the cooperative societies also will be determined by the Reserve Bank of India. Last one, the Nabard has the responsibility of coordinating the activities of central and state governments, the planning commissions, and other all India and state level institutions interested with the development of small scale industries. For the purpose of increasing the small scale industries, the Nabard Bank has the responsibility to coordinating the activities of central and the state governments and the planning commissions. So when they having the responsibilities or when they are doing the coordinating the activities from the central bank and state bank and the planning commissions, so they will have more financial assistance to the rural credits. So, and when they are making the plan in every years or every 5 years, so they will concerning the rural or development of rural and the agriculture. So the Nabard only will give the more data to the agricultural credit, and it has the responsibility to inspect regional rural bank and cooperative banks and other than primary cooperative societies. So the Nabard Bank also has the responsibility to inspect the all regional rural banks and the cooperative banks other than primary cooperative societies. Maybe the primary cooperative societies will be inspected by regional rural bank. Okay, but mostly all the farmers are having the dealing with the regional rural banks only. So the Nabard Bank will be have the responsibility to inspect the regional rural bank and the cooperative banks. So when they have the responsibility to inspect the two type of the banks, the regional rural banks and the cooperative societies also will providing the real concerning of the agricultural credit. Next, it maintains a research and development fund to promote research in agricultural and rural development. So the Nabard Bank also having the responsibility to make the research analysis about the rural credit and the development of agricultural. So when they are doing like so, we can find out the problems and the reasons. After that, we can give some of the remedies to resolving the problems. Next, RBI and industrial finance. So the Reserve Bank of India also provide or give the most important to industrial sectors. So it has one of the responsibility to providing the more financial ability or financial assistance to the industries also. So for that, the Reserve Bank of India has set up the state level and the central level finance agency. So even though the industries get finance from commercial banks, the quantum and the time will be very much limited generally. So the commercial banks lend for short term only, as they get only short term deposit from the public, because most of the commercial banks are receiving the short term deposit from the public. So the commercial banks can able to providing the short term credit to the entrepreneurs. So the further lending to industries is only a fragment of the total lending by the banks. So we can consider the providing amount or lending amount by the commercial bank is a small fragment of the total lending by the banks. So there is a need and urgency of establishing long-term credit facilities to the industries. The institutional setup in India for financing and promoting industries by the Reserve Bank of India. So what are the industries are set up by the Reserve Bank of India to providing the long-term credit facilities to the industries are: first one is on the all India level. So it has established the three finance corporations. First one is Industrial Finance Corporation of India. Next, Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India, that is the ICICI Bank. Next, Industrial Development Bank of India. So normally we will say the IDBI Bank. So the three banks are established by the Reserve Bank of India to providing the long-term credit facilities to the industries. So the Industrial Finance Corporation of India, it was the first in the chain of establishment of financial corporations to provide financial assistance for industrial development. It was established on July 1st, 1948 under the Act of the Parliament. So already we have studied, in last day. So we have studied, sorry, not here. Okay, IFCI provides assistance to the industrial concerns in the following ways. So long-term loans both in rupees and foreign currencies. So the industrial finance corporations are providing the long-term loans both in the rupees and foreign currencies, because so many of the entrepreneurs are involving in this international trade. So they need more foreign currencies, then only they can improve the industries and the production process. So the industrial finance corporations also providing the internal entrepreneurs and the international entrepreneurs. Not the international entrepreneurs, those who are involving in this international trade. Okay, so it is give the loans or long-term loans for the internal trader as a rupees, and the traders, those who are involved in this international trade, for them it will give the foreign currencies. Next, the underwriting of equity, preference and debentures issues. So the industrial finance corporations, IFCA banks, also issuing the shares and the debentures. Next, guaranteeing the deferred payments in respect of machinery imported from abroad or purchased in India. Suppose if the entrepreneurs want to purchasing the machineries for the production process, so the IFCI banks are providing the guaranteeing letters for their deferred payments. That is the loan. Okay, when they are borrowing the money, any one of the banks has to give some of the acknowledgement or one of the guarantee letter to the another industries. Okay, when they are purchasing in from the India or from the outside abroad, so one of the guarantee letter is important to the entrepreneurs. So instead of the entrepreneurs, the IFCA banks are providing the guaranteeing letter for their deferred payments. Next, guaranteeing of loans raised in foreign currency from foreign financial institutions. Sometimes the foreign financial institutions also can have the power to providing the financial ability to the internal and the external entrepreneurs. For that, some of the internal banks, the guaranteeing of the internal bank is very much need. So when they are purchasing or when they are having the dealing with the another nations or another currencies, so the ID or IFCA banks providing the guaranteeing letter. So the financial assistance of IFCA can be availed by any limited company in the public or private or joint sector. Such a financial specialized industries such a financial assistance will be available for the setting up of new industrial projects and also for the expansion, diversifications, renovations or modernizations of existing ones. So the IFCA banks also providing the more important to the innovating in these international or innovating in the industrial sectors. The IFCA also provides financial assistance on concessional terms for setting up the industrial projects in industrially less developed areas and districts. So wherever the industrial developed is insufficiently, so the IFCI banks also providing the more financial to creating the industrial projects and set up the industries. And also we should know one thing, the how the IFCI banks create or raise their source means. So it raises its sources by way of issue of bonds in the market. So the IFCI bank also will be issuing the bonds and the securities in this market and borrowing from the Industrial Development Bank of India and the central government. So it will also borrow the money from the central bank and foreign credit secured from foreign financial institutions and borrowings in the international capital market. So the international capital markets and the foreign financial institutions are there. From this both of two, it will collecting the foreign credit. So by this way, the IFCA banks will be raised their sources and it will be gives the more financial assistance to the industries. Okay student, today it's enough. So if you have any doubt, please ask me and just to take the functions of Nabard bank as your study portions. Okay, thank you.